Mother, Father, God, Divine Creator, thank you very much for all that has been given to us, for this opportunity, for this moment, for this life. And may we have an open mind and a softened heart to allow the teachings that come from our Master Jesus in so many different forms, through experiences, to words. And today, let us ask that Suzana be inspired as she share with us words that will guide us to understand spirituality as a whole. And with that in mind, and with our hearts full of hope and with a warm demeanor in our hearts and minds, we ask permission to our mentors and guides to open our spiritual Sunday this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
All right. So it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Suzana to you. I've known Suzana for a while now. I think she's a fantastic human being. She's a great communicator. And I love her insights and perspectives about all topics in general. So much so that every once in a while we even get to do that on a podcast called Spiritist Conversations, which I love doing. But my point is, Suzana has been studying Spiritism ever since pretty much was born. She was born in the Spiritist family. She's been here in the U.S. for about 30 years or so, I think,
30
right,
years.
Sue? And she has worked many different places, sharing the message of Spiritism and spirituality in general. She's one of the founding members of the Conscious Living Spiritist Center in Miami. If you're ever in Florida, in Miami, you might want to visit her over there. And she's also worked, in the Florida Spiritist Federation, the United States Spiritist Federation, and all those other things that go in between. But like I said, I really like listening to her. She loves to study and bring us different perspectives about important topics, such as the ones we're going to see today. I hope you also enjoy her clear approach to different things and her insights. And hopefully that will also spark in you the interest to get to know the works a little bit better. Right? So I'm really thrilled and really excited that she was able to make some time, even though she's here for a conference. She's a doctor of physical therapy and a director of rehabilitation professionally, and she's at a conference here in San Diego starting tomorrow, probably with an event tonight. But, we were able to snag her for a talk here today and one at Allan Kardec following this in Portuguese. If you ever want to migrate over there too, you can get on that Suzana bandwagon for today and follow us around. But thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I will. Suzana, thank you so much for being with us. Love having you here. Please.
Thank you, Danny. So, good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here in this wonderful weather and this center that feels like home, feels like I'm in the living room of my own home, kind of feeling so cozy, and which is dangerous because the cozier it gets, the more I feel like talking, and so, but I'm also very disciplined, so I'll keep the talk to the point that you're not exhausted from hearing from me. But this talk is, in fact, one of the 4 talks that I have in this is a series of talks that I did using the books of Joanna de Angelis. You will see that some slides don't have a reference because the book is not in English, so it's a free translation. It's not perfect, but hopefully good enough. When you see a reference, it's because we have the book in English already, so you can refer to it. But it's really interesting because Joanna, I think pretty much all her books, she does have a chapter that talks about death in life. And so what I did is I researched her books and I put together this seminar that is composed of 4 different lectures. This is the first one of them. And then there's 3 others that talk about illness and death, aging and death, and attachment and death, and also the dying process. So I have the reference at the end. You guys can, if you're interested in listening to the whole series, I'll show you where to go. But today is our opening topic, and so these are some of the books that I use and that are available in English. And the goals is for us, it's funny, but it is for us to become acquainted to the idea of death, because we are spiritualists and we do know that we're going to die, but and we talk about that, but we don't talk about that. We talk about that as a philosophical topic that we should study and know, but not something that actually is just ahead of us. Maybe in a few years, maybe tonight. And once I say that, some people feel like, ooh, and it's that ooh that we are here to talk about. Become certain about the idea of life with capital L. We're going to talk about life with small and capital L, what the difference is, redefine life and death based on her work. So we're opening with this statement that we find in Corinthians: where oh, that is your victory, where oh, that is your sting. Just to get us going. So when I think about that, this is a small exercise, right? So I want you to think about that for a moment and try to identify, what do you feel? What are the feelings, right? If I would say to you, tomorrow you will die. Fear, apprehension, what? What comes to mind, or what comes to the heart? Now, do you think about that? Do you talk about that? Have you ever, none of us here is too young, with the exception of this gentleman, but so from the audience here, I would ask, do you have a will? Do you have a healthcare surrogate? Do you have your finances in place? Not thinking of today, but thinking of tomorrow, thinking of the day that you're not going to be here. Have you talked to your children or to your siblings or other people about what do you wish for your death? How do you want to die? Not that you're going to decide how you want to die, but let's say if you are to be in a place where you need to be kept alive by machines at the very end of life. If you develop Alzheimer's, for example, and you can no longer make sound decisions, do your relatives know what you want? For example, I have told my children that one of the things that I really want, if I end up with Alzheimer's or in a nursing home or whatever, to make sure to tell my caregivers to bathe me once a day, because I really like showers. I really like, and that's something that I want. It's important that people know what we want, what we care about. So, have you had this conversation? I asked my mother, I said to her, Mom, what do you want for the moment that you were dying? And her reaction to me was like, are you trying to kill me earlier, sooner than later? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. But I wish that this moment, that is such an important moment, to be one of quality, to be one that can be fully lived. Sounds funny to talk about that and the idea of fully living the process. Do you want to be numb? Do you want to be out? Do you want to be conscious? Do you want to partake? What do you want? What are your wishes? So that's actually the last lecture on this series of lectures, But I'm bringing these topics because it's like the white elephant that no one wants to talk about, although it is down the road for all of us. And here we are, a group of spiritists, which we are immortalists, and we know that better than anyone else. And yet, why is it that we don't talk about it? Why is it that, the day that I talked to my mom about it, she's like, "Are you okay? Is there something going on with you?" I'm like, "Nothing's going on with me, But these, spiritually speaking, the dying process, when we have the privilege to age and to naturally die, it's a moment, it's an incredible moment of awakening for the spirit. And then I think the second or third lecture, we talks about aging. Aging is about losing the physical strength so that the spirit can become stronger, so that we can be better prepared to pass. So as we do less, as we are less capable of doing, we are also being invited to the exercise of being, to actually understanding what is and where is our value outside of producing and doing. Because in the spiritual realm, we have a very different set of rules and things function very differently. So the whole aging, so do you think about that? Do you want to live a long time, or do you want to live with quality the time that you have? Those are important questions. Do you want your life to be kept at all expenses, everything to be done to you so that you can be here until, God knows? Or do you want to naturally go when the body starts to failing, but to take advantage of those moments with clarity, with consciousness and quality? We are living more and more. Science, let me tell you something. It's going to sound funny, but it's very true, because I work with hospice. I work with elderly individuals. I have 1,200 participants under my care who have a life expectancy of 2 years. So the question is, I lost the question. I lost where I was going with that. It will come back to me in a minute. But this is what we need to be really thinking about. And again, I'm not inside your brains, but I'm sure that you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not perhaps doing all that I have to do. I, for instance, have all my things planned. I try to tell my children, they're only 14 and 15, but I do tell them a few things. We have all our papers in place. My wife knows exactly what I want. I know exactly what she wants. We have had this conversation, and it feels good. And it feels good. So let's get into Joanna. And this is a little bit of a study. So I'm going to bring some of her texts. I mean, she does talk a lot about that. And she invites us to meditate on the transience of the organic car, its continuous transformations, its wear and tear, as you move in it. And you will be induced to think about what will occur after the biological phenomenon of your death or cell breakdown. So be aware that each day that we are living, right, we are dying. You know that, right? Cells are dying. And our body, as it goes on, has less and less ability to repair itself. So some things that we would repair very easily start to take longer, and that's just the nature of our physical body. A lot of times we are walking around, we are doing things, and we have the illusion that we are strong and that everything is okay. But then, Joanna will say, it takes sometimes touching a tiny little sharp surface for you, the strong you, to get infected, and from one day to another develop, a generalized picture of infection and pass away. So don't be fooled by what appears to be your physical health and your strength, because we don't know. A lot of times there's silent processes going on within us that we don't have symptoms, but they might be present. Well, should I be scared? No, you should be aware. You should be prepared. You should be actually putting to use the learnings that you have here. Don't you learn about immortality? Don't you learn that life goes on? That's not meant to be just a philosophical exercise. It's meant to be something that you integrate in your day-to-day life in such a way that you can be in the world and feel that you are here, but you don't belong here. Because this is not our home. We are here in a temporary, we are here in tents. Our physical bodies are tents. Nobody lives forever in a tent. We live in homes, and our home is elsewhere. So I love this idea that we are camping here in this planet, and this is all transient. And this is what she's talking about. It is understandable and necessary for the intelligent being to reserve time for reflection around this inexorable fatalism. Delays in the necessary reflection about that for materialist fear of or illusion hides the psychological immaturity that time will discount. It will not be because one ignores this reality that it will cease to exist. The more it is analyzed and comprehended, the better for its overcoming, making it part of everyday events. So that is her invitation, everyday event. So we need to take time to think about that, right? So we're constantly running, we're constantly doing, but we need, as a society, to open more time to get in touch with who we are, in essence, the purpose of being here, so that when that comes, whether we are talking about our own or somebody else's, we are not so taken by surprise, or we don't get so disorganized by the event. It is a difficult event. This lecture has not an intent to take away the difficulties and the pain that comes with death. Again, thinking of our own or somebody else. And it's in the Spirit's book. The Spirits will tell us that for us, in our level of evolution, the death, the dying of the body, of the physical body, is a trial and an expiation. Is a very difficult experience, a painful one for us because of our level of identification with the material. And so this is not going to make the experience any easier in the sense of decreasing the pain, but it does ground us. It does give us a perspective. It does help us to be better prepared and have inside us the resources to better manage and cope with the whole process. So I love this. So what is the most appropriate moment to talk about death, right? When should we start talking about it? Well, I'm 54. Maybe it's a little too early still, right? I intend to live until 90. I don't want to go past that. But so is it too early? Well, we should talk about that to our kids, you know. So the first talk that I have about that with my kids is when their first hamster passed away. And so we had a little ceremony. The hamster is in our yard. We buried it in the yard. And then we did a prayer. And I said, let's pray and thank the hamsters for the wonderful service that it provided to us. It was a friend, and we have so much gratitude. And let's hope that the hamster soul is in peace and continues to run and do his little things now outside of the body. So that was the first time that I spoke to my kids. They were probably, 4 or 5. And that I brought the idea of the continuity of life using the hamsters. But Joanna will say, the illusion of bodily eternity happens when young people transfers to old age the examination of death. Or when healthy, they postpone the same reflection to the period of diseases, believing to be invulnerable to wear and degenerative phenomena of matter. They accompany the occurrence of death everywhere with other people, but they believe it will not occur to them, at least not for now, a now that lasts an indefinitely time. So that's it, right? Not now, but so when, right? And then not now because I'm young, not now because I'm healthy, but again, we have no idea of tomorrow. But we want to believe that it's not now and it's not today. And we keep postponing and keep postponing. Thus one must live preparing to die, meditating on death, so as not to suffer the distress, avoiding despair, and all its entourage of disturbing agents. So there's a little story, and I was looking for image. I put death on Google, and horrible images came on. I said, no, I cannot use that on my slide. So that was the mildest one that I could find, the representation of that I thought would be appropriate. But so this is a little story that Joanna tells about this man and his master. And the master would send the man to the city to purchase an essence, a perfume that he loved very much. And so the man every day would go to the city to acquire that. And one day the servant is at the city purchasing the essence for the master when he sees death. And he gets very anxious, and he's very apprehensive, and he freaks out and runs away, goes back to the servant, and tells the servant, I think I saw death at the market, and I think that death was there to after me, and I'm not going to hang around here. I'm very sorry. I'm moving to another city. And so the master is very sorry, but lets him go. But that afternoon, he kind of ran out of the essence. He wants to go back to the city. And to his surprise, when he gets to the city, who he sees over there? Death. And he very courageously approaches Death and says to Death, why are you here? Why are you causing all this distress? You scare a servant of mine this morning. And Death takes out its little notebook and the notes and said, no, I'm not here to cause any disturbance, but I am very confused and very puzzled because I took a look at my notes, and that guy that was here that I came to pick up, it's to be elsewhere and not here. And so we can run away from that. That will find us at the right place wherever, our time has come. And so we should always, again, be thinking and be talking about death. And I think what helps us is to think about the concept of life with capital L and life with small l, right? So life with small l is our incarnation here. Capital L is our eternal, ongoing life. And it's really nice how Joanna talks about this as a continuity, as a partnership. So let's see some of her definitions. First, she brings this definition in when she puts this dialogue of the apprentice who asked the master, Master, what is the opposite of death? And the master will respond, the opposite of death is rebirth. It's not life, but rebirth, because there is only and always life, whether the spirit roams through the physical body or outside of it. So first change in concept. So it's not life. We're always being reborn. We are either reborn into the flesh or we are reborn outside of the flesh. So this idea of this continuity, of these cycles, help us to have the sense and the feeling, because we already know cognitively. But the point of this lecture and this whole seminar was to help people to go beyond knowing and feeling and really having that inner sense and inner certainty that there's only life in the universe. only life. And so the consequences of that is everything here becomes temporary. Everything here becomes relative. So, for example, when you are dealing with your family, let's say you have a son or a daughter who wants to leave and go live in the other side of the world. And part of the pain that we feel is that we want to keep people close to us. It is my son. This sense of attachment and possession is very materialistic. When we not only know, but we feel and we integrate the idea of immortality, we start to understand that all the people, especially our close family members, they do not belong to us. They're immortal spirits with a very unique mission and a very unique trajectory. They were born close to us so that that time of closeness served a function. But our children are not our children, so they are meant to go out. When I left Brazil, and I was I was only 24, and I was very naturally sad and scared. And my mom said to me, and I was supposed to go back, and it never happened because my career kind of went forward here in the US. But my mom said, but go and the world is your home, and you will find for yourself another family, and you have other siblings and grandmothers and mother. And that's precisely what happens, because that is the immortalist view. Yeah, I was born in that family. Those ties and that love sustains me and supports me, but I am a citizen of the world, and I have a trajectory and a mission and experiences that I need to live that none of my relatives can do for me. I must do it myself. And sometimes for that, we need to be physically apart, or not, but sometimes that is the case. But when you experience life from this perspective, it's not that I don't miss them. It's not that I didn't have my moments of sadness, but you have a much higher purpose, and you understand even the blood ties from a different perspective. So that grants you freedom and actually frees you from something that's very common in the Brazilian community or immigrants, which is guilt. Guilt. Guilt permeates our Brazilian community. People are guilty if they stay, they're guilty if they go. There's no running away from guilt. But the immortalist perspective actually helps you to dissipate some of this guilt, because you understand that you are an immortal being with a unique trajectory, and that, there's a time and a place for everything. So in Gloria's Day, she'll say that death and rebirth are complementary processes because they are part of the same phenomenon of life. And she will continue defining by saying, a moment comes to everything and everyone where the vital flow is interrupted and the organic cocoon disconnects, victimized by the phenomenon of death, also part of life. And I really like that. So she's always connecting one idea to the other. It's not, these are not separate events. We're talking about one event. We're talking about the continuity of life. We're talking about life with capital L. So dying is part of life. Dying is important. Dying is the end of a cycle so that life can continue on, so that life can continue to be richer, can continue to be fullest. So when we live our lives with this awareness, which is funny, why talk about death? Because the more we can talk about that, the more alive we are in our lives. Does that make sense? Because it means that we are living each day with a full awareness of what life is truly about. And therefore, we can be fully present and fully engaged with life because we are present with an enlarged awareness of what life is about. human beings are still pondering about life and death. This traditional duality of phenomena that ultimately is only a unity in two aspects considered, the physical and the spiritual. So like I was saying, we think of a dual thing, but it's a one thing. And she will say that same idea in so many ways throughout her books. I'm going to skip a few slides as we go. So I really love this idea, the idea of the cocoon, which is very traditionally used for inner transformation. But I like this idea for death. One thing that we don't understand too well is that it is much harder for the spirit to incarnate than to discarnate. Okay? So when you look at this image here, this is really how we should think of physical bodies. For the spirit, this is it. We are enclosed in a tight environment, which is the environment of the physical body. Emmanuel has some texts that talk about the difficulties of incarnation for the spirit, where the brain, the physical brain, it's like a tiny, tiny little window from which the spirit can see the outside world. So the physical body limits the spirit's ability to think, to process, to feel, to be extremely. So it is actually tight and difficult to be inside this physical body. So that is the liberation in the right moment. So what happens to the butterfly that is about to come out from that cocoon? It is the struggle within the cocoon that is giving the butterfly's wing the strength to fly. So if you actually break the cocoon and to free the butterfly sooner than its right time, the butterfly won't fly. Because it was precisely that struggle in that tight cocoon that gives the butterfly the strength that it needs for the adequate flight. This is us. We are in a cocoon. We are struggling. We are strengthening our wings so that when the cocoon breaks, we can fly free and hopefully we can fly high. So when we think about death, the death of our loved ones, we can think that they broke the cocoon, that they are now free to fly, that life goes on. What Earth has to offer is very little. Sometimes when people lose, for example, a child at an early age, which is a very, very difficult experience, the mother, the father will say, you know, I lost my son. He was 20 years old. He was in medical school. Such a bright future. But if you bring the immortalist perspective, you're going to say, what future are you talking about? Are you seriously comparing the future in the earth, in the physical realm, compared to the spiritual realm? I mean, look at the world that we live in, a world of trials and expiations. According to the gospel, according to Spiritism, chapter 3, this is a prison. So all of us are souls who have broken the law. This is a hospital. We are ill. This is a bad neighborhood. We are marginals. Because the idea of the earth as a school is not in the gospel. That was brought up later in the Spiritist literature. What the gospel says is that this isn't a good place. It's good for us, is what we need. So when the spirit breaks free from the cocoon, right? Now the spirit is free to fly to a much better and brighter future than any future that this planet could have offered. So those are perspectives that these ideas that Joanna works with us helps us to little by little expand our vision, but also our feeling about life and death. Now, life is movement, and that is something that is helpful for us to think as well. So she will say, throughout the universe, rest does not exist, since incessant movement is the central spring of the universe balance. Similarly, all biological phenomena are under ongoing change, alternating the molecules that make them up and disrupting shapes without ever extinguishing. Why is this important in this concept? Because we have a tendency to want to keep things the way they are, not to move, not to change. But change is what keeps the universe going. Change is what keeps the universe balanced. So things will change. Sometimes we make plans, and just like my mom now, she moved to the south to be with my aunt, who was 2 years younger, or 2 years younger than her. She lived there for 3 years. She bought an apartment because, they're going to stay on the south. My family is originally from Rio. And tomorrow exactly is the anniversary of 1 year that my aunt died. She was found dead in her apartment. She was younger than my mom, strong physically and all that. Now, in 2 months, my mom is selling everything and moving to another state. So she made a whole plan, and the whole plan was based on the idea that she and her sister, her only sister, would get older together in the south where they were living. Well, that was her plan, but certainly not God's plan. So God changed everything. Unexpectedly, she left. And now my mom is having to revisit and restructure her entire life. But this is movement. So the more we fight the idea of movement, the more we suffer. Because life is movement. So for this, I'm going to push here 5 minutes to get just into the existential meaning of life. So Joanna will say, if there was no physical death, the meaning of life would disappear, as well as the purpose of the struggle, the conquest of values, and the intellect, moral development of being. So it is precisely the fact that we know that there is an end, that life will go on, that gives today, our day-to-day purpose. And this is one of the most powerful and beautiful things about Spiritism, because, what is it that Spiritism, when I think about what is it that Spiritism gives us that is so powerful, so consoling, and it is the source of our resilience? Is purpose. Purpose. Because you can be shattered, you can be down, you can be struggling. Sometimes families, sometimes illnesses, sometimes many different things. And you can be exhausted and you can be bruised. But you wake up each day and you know the purpose of your life, of your existing. And that purpose creates resilience and strength. And the purpose is born from the fact that we know what this life is about. We know that there is an end. We know the purpose of our incarnations. And we know that each one of us has a mission. So no matter what, no matter if we're having good days or bad days, our life is rich of purpose. And when you find purpose in life, you also connected with something that is very powerful, which is gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude, when you live in a state of gratitude, you live in a state of fullness and connection. So sometimes life is going to bring us really wonderful things and everything seems to be flowing the direction that we want. Awesome, thank God for that. Sometimes life goes in the opposite direction and everything that we had dreamt about and that we have wished is actually fading away or escaping from our hands. And in that moment, we look at God and we say, thank God for that. That's what Spiritism does for us. That's what the understanding of life in life, we're not going to talk about life in that, we're going to talk about life in life, or life is about, right? because you understand that we are here this time, which is a limited amount of time, has a purpose. And God and the universe and the laws are conspiring for that, to make us the most beautiful and powerful butterfly at the moment that we break that cocoon. And that is the feeling of gratitude that sustains us through the difficulties of life. The awareness of the transience of the somatic body, elaborated by divine love to serve as a fertile soil for the fertilization and development of the dormant attributes in the spirit, represents valuable achievement for the harmony of the being during earthly learning. So, this awareness that this is a temporary thing, right? In this body that has been perfectly elaborated by God, it gives us, it represents, is an achievement. So if you have developed this awareness, if you have this understanding, then you have achieved a place of consciousness that is important and valuable for the time that you will be here. And just one more slide. In the meaning of life, she'll say the awakening for higher objectives than the immediate ones helps to understand the meaning of the existence and the psychological meaning of being alive. Therefore, active and useful at any given time is my addition in the context of the social group in which the spirit moves. So it doesn't matter whether you are 5, 20, 30, 70, 90. When you have this psychological meaning, life has meaning. I have my 90-year-old father-in-law who lives with us, and he said to me and to my wife at some point that if he got old and he became disabled, he would rather not live. But there he is with us, slowly dying each day in hospice care. And I think that he's been living with us for 4 years. In these last 6 months, he has really declined. He no longer gets out of bed. But there is so much going on with him. And so I think he still carries a purpose within him, and he smiles and he interacts. And there is so much going on spiritually, I feel, since he came back to our home to be cared for us. He told his daughter, he said, because he was not always a very present and affectionate father, he said to her, I don't know why you're doing this for me. So that statement alone and everything that came after that shows the importance and the value and the meaning of life at any given time. Because for us, a lot of times we'll say, well, I don't want to be old. I don't want to, because we have so many weird connections and a very poor understanding of what old age actually is and means, spiritually speaking. And so as long as you have meaning and psychological meaning to be alive, you can be an active process, a useful process. And life here on earth will be of an incredible value and will prepare us to better transition to what is our real and true life. I'll finish here. Considering mortality as the great definitive goal, every moment of the bodily journey represents a valuable opportunity for growth and precious psychological investment for the achievement of integral health, the one that proceeds from the inside to the outside. So I hope that these reflections can help you to go back home and talk about life and death with your loved ones. If you want to listen to the full lecture, which I didn't do here, you can go to the YouTube channel and there's an English folder and you can find the lectures over there. And also, there is some stuff in all the social media that I have. So thank you guys.